me, no, you can't shoot here, no, you can't do that, no, you can't do this. There were so many film festivals that said this will never work, this is a bad idea. You'd be surprised, just so much rejection. And I had gotten so used to it, and then for HBO to buy it and show it all around the world, I've now used the word, I don't like listen to the word no anymore, it's fabulous actually. It's like, no to me now is a turn on. Like I was just talking to my boss a few hours ago, and he was like, you can't do that, Jenks. And he was like, there's no way you can do it. And I was like, that's perfect, let's start from there. Like, we can go from here. He's like, no, what are you talking about? I was like, well, you said no, like, let's start from there. He was like, I think he hung up the phone on me. You know, I just think that more than anything has helped me and has helped me go on to do other things. I think the only time I would not suggest using this whole motto of using no as a turn on would be with girls. And I only say that, and I would never normally say this, but I got an email like a week or two ago because I had told people, like, you know, don't take no for an answer. Like, you're going to get a lot in life and you should just get over it. And so I got this email, and I don't know how this kid got my email, but he writes me this email and he's like, yo, Jenks, I was at your thing the other night and you told us never to take no for an answer. And I went up to this girl and I was like, yo, will you go out with me? And she was like, no way. And I was like, well, I'm not going to take no for an answer. And now she thinks that I'm a creep and, like, you know, I'm following her around and it's all your fault. And I was like, dude, it's not my fault. I mean, that is creepy. Like, so now I feel like I have to warn people when I say this. It's like, you know. Anyway, so that movie came out, and you know, I had a little bit of leverage now that this, you know, HBO thing had happened, and I started to think, all right, well, what would be another kind of like documentary that I would want to make? And I'll get to the MTV thing in a second. But there was always this documentary that I had wanted to make about a American baseball manager who was a very famous coach here in the States. He coached the New York Mets to a World Series in 2000, and Bobby Valentine. And he moved to Japan and became a demigod there. Like, he was the first American to ever win a Japan series, and he was the first, like, really well-known American coach to even coach in Japan whatsoever. And so the point is that he went to Japan and became, once he won the Japan series, he like, there was a beer named after him, there was parades thrown for him, there was a street named after him, there was a burger, beer, everything. It was crazy. And I kept thinking, like, wow, this, like, American halfway around the globe, like, you know, coaching this team of all Japanese guys. It's like Lost in Translation meets Mr. Baseball. This could be like a really cool documentary. And so I started to think, well, how could I get it made? And I figured the first thing would be trying to get Bobby Valentine, the coach, on board. So I started to figure out, like, ways that I could contact Bobby Valentine. So I started with, like, just emailing, like, bobbyvalentine@aol.com and, like, bvalentine@aol.com, like, just, like, cold emails. And I got dozens of, like, responses of, like, yo, ass, you know, this is not Bobby Valentine, the coach, it's the chef, or it's something else. Stop emailing me, weirdo. So I eventually, through a friend of a friend, cousin, I got his email. And I sent him this long, 3-page, like, passionate email saying exactly what I want to make this documentary about an American in Japan, you know, coaching this team to a championship and following you for the season and blah, 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 blah. And he wrote back, meet me at my bar tomorrow at some point. So I was like, all right, that's better than a no, I'll take that. And I went to his bar when it opened at like 11 or 12. And I just sat there and waited for him, and a couple hours went by, and he stopped by, and we talked about it. And at first he said there was no way that, you know, we could ever do this. And then he eventually kind of, you know, we broke through and said that he would do it, but only if we followed him for all 9 months. Because he explained that in Japan, it's really important to adapt and assimilate and show the Japanese culture that you care. So when you go there, you have to be there the entire 9 months. You can't, like, be here, you know, there for a month and not there for a month. And so, you know, I kind of took that to heart, and I said, okay, that's totally fair. And through another connection of a cousin, I got into the doors of ESPN in New York, and and started pitching them this idea. And at first they were like, we don't know, and then eventually they came back and said, you know what, we really like this, can you get Bobby Valentine to come? And I was like, yeah, sure, I think so. So I asked him to come, and anyway, to make a long story short, it was Bobby Valentine and myself at the ESPN offices about to pitch this idea that would cost us $1 million. The budget was $1 million, just for myself and two other guys, two of my buddies who had filmed my first movie, or first documentary, just to live there for 9 months with the food and the cameras and everything, travel, it added up. And so I was sitting there and we were about to go pitch this, and I'm thinking like, man, this is $1 million budget, it's Bobby Valentine, who's a really well-known coach, and then it's just like me. Just like a 20-year-old kid who made some movie about living with old people. It's like, I started to get really worried that they may want to make the movie, but not let me direct it. So then I went and I looked into the room that we were about to enter, and I saw that it was like 14 suits, like 14 old men, maybe, women, and I was about to like present them this big idea, and I started to think, there's no way they're gonna let me direct this, like there's no way. So I looked over at Bobby, and I was like, Bobby, before we go into this meeting, I need you to do one thing for me. He's like, yeah, man, yeah, I hardly know you, but yeah, what's up? And I was like, listen, you need to tell them that you will only make this movie if I direct it. He was like, what are you talking about? I was like, just say that, that's all I ask. He's like, all right, that's fine, sure, okay. So we went into the meeting, cut to like an hour and a half later. These guys are laughing, crying, talking about how they can't believe that Bobby Valentine gets to park his car in the middle of highways in Japan and no one cares. Because everyone's like, oh, that's Bobby's car, it's all good. It's like, and they're going crazy, they love the baseball part of it, everything. I haven't said a word. And I'm like, oh man, I'm in some trouble here. So the meeting's about to end, everyone's literally like getting up from their chairs, and I kind of like, what the hell is this? I don't know what this is. I like nudged Bobby a little bit. I don't know what, like maybe under the table or something. And I was like, come on, man, like, And he kind of got the hint, and he said, oh wait, I have something to say before this meeting ends. And everyone kind of was like, oh, and they kind of sat back down, and they put out their notebooks and got their pens out, and they're like, yes, Bobby. And he was like, listen, I will not make this movie unless it is directed by Andrew Jerks. And I was like, oh, come on. I was like, Bobby, it's Jenks. He's like, Andrew Jenks. Longtime friends, we're just kidding around here. We walked off, and a couple months later, I was leaving college and moved to Japan for 9 months with two of my buddies. And it was when the whole kind of idea of faking it till you make it sort of popped into my head, which I'll get to in a few minutes, and helped me a lot with the whole MTV